Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skibound, and this is the 52 must-see movies and why they matter, season number 2. And once again, I am joined by Mr. Chance Ellison. How you doing this evening, Chance?
I'm doing that I think I suggested to you, and I'm super excited to talk about this one.
That's right. Chance nominated this film, so we're talking about the Alfred Hitchcock classic Psycho. And of course, this is one of my favorite films of all time. Absolutely love this film. So when I saw that Chance had nominated this for season 2, I was like excited because I love talking about this film, and plus I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan. You know, there's so many great horror films, but rarely do we see a film this old being talked about in the greatest horror films of all time.
No, yeah, very very true. I think the fact that I think that the scares and the story and the direction stand out more than it stands out more than what the movie's giving you. Like what stands out is the atmosphere and the tension building and the payoffs and the big scares that come like that, rather than relying on like big gore or like monsters or special effects and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the cast is a great cast. And at the lead, playing Norman Bates, is none other than Anthony Perkins, and Janet Leigh plays Marion Crane. Vera Miles plays Lila Crane. Martin Balsam plays Arbogast, and John Gavin plays Sam Loomis. Those are all our main characters in the movie. You have any thoughts about the cast?
Yeah, like the cast up and down. I forget how good the cast overall is. I mean, yeah, Anthony Perkins is fantastic as Norman Bates. This is obviously one of the highlights of his career. The dude's great. Janet Leigh, who was, I believe, she was a big name back in the '60s. You take an interesting turn with her character that I'm sure we'll get into in a second. But yeah, like the cast up and down, fantastic. Vera Miles is awesome. John Gavin is awesome. Sam Loomis, who was, fun fact, so ingrained in pop culture that a character in Halloween, Sam Loomis, that's who he's named after.
Oh, okay. And there's a little cameo in here. He Hitchcock used to like to put his daughter in the films, and so in this one he's got his daughter Pat Hitchcock in there. She plays the secretary. So if you're good and you know what Hitchcock's daughter looks like, the secretary that she plays. But let's get into the story here. Of course, it starts out with Marion Crane and Sam Loomis in bed together. She's on like a kind of like a, I don't know what you call it. She's taking her lunch, but she's going. She went to Sam Loomis's place, and they were in bed together. So they're
A
having
nooner.
a dinner. Yeah, well, she wants to have a dinner. She wants to be respectful and have a dinner, but he's like, nah, let's go meet in a hotel and shack up in a hotel and have some sex in a hotel. So that's kind of how the film starts. The date of the film that it takes place is Friday, December 11th, and it starts out at 2:43 p.m. She is from your neck of the woods, Chance, Phoenix, Arizona, and he is from a little town called Fairvale, Arizona. So this is out by where you live or where you go to school. So it's kind of interesting how you don't see a lot of movies that take place out in Arizona. I mean, you have some, but and so then she goes back to her office and she runs into the rest of the secretaries, and there's the boss in there, and then there's a big shot, big wig guy. Her boss is Mr. Harris, and then she's got Mr. Cassidy, who's trying to buy a house for his daughter. He's trying to get a deed for a house for his daughter for her her wedding, and he's going to pay $40,000. The times are a little bit different, Chance, in 1960. Don't you
Yeah,
agree?
no, that was a lot of money back then. I just did a quick little inflation calculation. So 40,000 back then is over 300,000 today. So like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole beginning of the movie is them establishing the fact that Marion Crane and Sam Loomis, they want to get married, but they can't do it because of Sam Loomis's debts. So what she does is she there's a client that's going to drop off $40,000, and she just takes that and bolts.
Yeah. She's supposed to go and deliver the money at the bank. And I don't know what got into her, but she decides she's not going to deliver the money at the bank, and she's going to take off with the money. She packs her suitcase, throws it in the car, gets in the car. But unbeknownst to her, her boss and the client is crossing the road while she's at a red light, and he sees her. I mean, of all the things that could possibly happen, I mean, I was like, really? She's trying to get away, and the freaking boss he's like, maybe he doesn't realize what he's looking at, that she's there. She's not, you know, where she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be going home because she's tired, right?
Yeah, no, like the boss. I don't think, from what I remember, from what I remember, he didn't realize that she had basically robbed him. But yeah, so she takes off in her Ford. I want to say it was a mainline, and with California tags, and she's heading off. She's heading off. She's fleeing the state. She's trying to get away. And she stopped? I'm trying to remember. I think she was stopped by a cop or something on the way out.
Fell asleep. She was tired driving, and so she fell asleep, and she pulled over to the side of the road and went to sleep. And in the morning, when it was light out, a cop comes up and pulls up and starts.
That's right.
Starts asking her questions, asks for her ID and stuff like that. But the thing is, she's kind of being a little bit suspicious. So what he ends up doing is he ends up following her. And eventually he goes one way and she goes the other way, but she goes into town and she tries to buy a new car. But across the street, the police officer drives up and he's standing there. He's watching her. He's across the street. And she's like telling the car dealer, hey, I want to buy this car. He's like, okay, I'll take your car and $700 for the new car. And she's like, okay, that's great. Da da da. They make the deal. Then she almost leaves her bag and her jacket in her other car. And the guy has to stop her. But then the police officer comes over after she drives off. She goes, there's something not right about this woman. You know, usually the salesman guy, he goes, the salesman's usually pressures the customer. It's not the other way around. The customer doesn't pressure the salesman.
No, yeah, exactly. So like she's acting, but she knows something. She knows something's up, and that's a really good testament to the acting ability of Janet Leigh. But nevertheless, like she was really good in this movie. But nevertheless, she trades in her main line for that's when she gets the custom. That's when she gets she gets a custom with California tags on it. So hopefully she try to shake the cop. But that's when she gets to it's nighttime. She needs to get out the road, so she stops at a little place called the Bates Motel, in which the proprietor of the motel, Norman Bates, waits. I think I want to say like all the rooms were open,
12 vacant.
And yeah, everything was vacant, so she has no problem getting a room. And then she gets the one right next to the office, and she has a talk with Norman Bates, who you like right when you get there, you're getting certain vibes from this guy. You don't know what it is, but something is throwing you off about him. Just because the way he talks, the way he acts, they actually have, I want to say that they have like tea or something in his office, and there's like taxidermy birds everywhere, and you're like, this dude is off.
Yeah, when she comes in and he asks her if she wants to get dinner and that she can come up to the house and get milk and sandwiches. But then he is arguing with his mother, and so he ends up bringing the milk and sandwiches down to the office, and he gives it to her because he's not hungry, and she eats the milk and sandwiches. But you're right, he's suspicious from the very get-go. And going back a second, the reason why she got off the road was it was pouring rain, and
it was raining. That's right.
Could not see. She had to get off the road. She was barely able to see the base motel sign, so that's why she got off the road to get out of the rain, basically.
That's right. No, you're right. You're right.
And okay, so he basically lets her go into her room after a while because they're talking, and she's kind of she overheard some of the argument between him and his mother, and she's like, well, why do you let your mother berate you like that and this and that? Well, a relationship between a boy and his mother is sacred and all this stuff. And he's defending his mother, but she's like, hey, you still got to stick up for yourself and this and that, because she doesn't know what's going on, really, to be honest with you.
The audience, nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah, nobody knew it was. And he puts her in cabin number 1, which is right next to the office, Chance. And he's got a little bit of a surprise going on because he takes one of his pictures off the wall, and he's got a peephole through into cabin number 1 from the office. So he's like a peeping Tom on her. And that's, that really gets our senses up. Oh, this guy's looking through the wall at her through a hole in the wall,
That scene would not fly today.
No. Well, come on, they do all kinds of crazy stuff nowadays.
Good point. Yeah, like, man, that brother's about to catch a case.
Yeah. Well, back then it was very controversial to have something.
Yeah, no, even in the '60s, like this, like we're entering the section of the movie where this was like there was a big swell controversy about this movie, and I think this whole like section of the movie, like this is why. So, yeah, he's spying on her. She's undressing. She's about to. Well, first of all, she's doing math, trying to figure out how much money she has after she bought the car. And that's where we get a historic moment in movie history, the first time we see a toilet flush in a film.
Yeah, because she rips up the paper, throws it down the toilet. And Norman goes back to the house. So we think, okay, Marian's okay. She's in the house. She's going to take a shower. Because Norman went back to the house. We know, oh, everything's fine. No problems here. Well, needless to say, we see a shadow through the shower curtain, and that music that we all
that iconic score starts going, and you see what looks like Norman's mother just stabbing the shit out of Janet Marion Crane. And it was really that scene was particularly interesting because like up until this point you couldn't like you didn't know the movie was going here because like it was playing it and it was building like it was like a heist movie. Like that's what it was building on, and Janet Leigh was the main character. But then you get to this scene where it takes a super like big detour, and spoiler alert, you kill what you assume was the main character in the first third of the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. About a little under halfway through the movie. It's a little past the third way. It's about it's about halfway through the movie, really, Chance.
Okay, halfway through.
From just watching it, I think it was closer to halfway through the movie. But yeah, so we get the blood, we get the screams, we see her fall. She grabs a shower curtain, she falls, she's dead from the shower. But I wanna just say another movie magic. What I love about film is how they do movie magic. This was not actual blood. This was simulated blood of milk chocolate, Chance. What you see going down the drain and dripping all over the place and all over the bathtub and the walls is milk chocolate. Because this is a black and white film, milk chocolate doesn't have a color to it. It looks black on screen, on on camera, so it looks like it can be simulated as blood. And this is a great trick by Alfred Hitchcock, because it really looked like blood to the people, of anybody that would be watching this film. And it is very jarring to see this, what looks like real blood, in the tub and in the shower and on her and everywhere. What do you think about that?
No, yeah. When the first time I saw that, my mother told me about that scene. It was like, oh yeah, that's not like fake blood or anything. That's actually chocolate syrup, because yeah, I mean, well, because of the way the color grading was in the movie, and because it was black and white, the only thing that could replicate the texture and consistency of real blood was chocolate syrup. So that's what they had to do. I thought that was a really cool. I thought that was a really cool filmmaking technique.
Absolutely. And twice they do this next thing. Hitchcock pans in at the table where Marion Crane she was trying to hide the money. She didn't know where she was going to hide the money. So what she ended up doing earlier in the film is she bought a newspaper. She put the money in a newspaper, and instead of hiding it someplace, she put the money on the table, the end table by the bed, in plain sight. You would not know there was $40,000. I guess it's $42,300 sitting on the newspaper on the bed. And neither did Norman Bates, for that matter.
No, he didn't. He didn't know that. Like right after that scene comes up, it goes, Marion Crane's dead, and you cut to a wide shot of the Bates house, and you hear like, "Mother, blood," and then you just see him bolt out of the house and come in, and just like he's horrified at what he's looking right now, because like the only person to come into this motel has just wound up dead, and it's my mother's fault.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We still, as the audience, believe that his mother did this, and he's reacting to something he's seeing for the first time. But he sure knows how to clean up after it, because he gets a bucket, he gets a mop, he gets the shower curtain, puts the body in the shower curtain, pulls up the car, puts the body in the trunk, gets all the clothes, puts it in the suitcase, puts that in the trunk, and he grabs that newspaper off that table, Chance, and he throws it in the trunk, and he wipes down everything in the bathroom. So he sure knows how to clean up after something like this, for someone who's traumatized about seeing this, don't you think?
Yeah. It looks like maybe he hasn't practiced, maybe he knows what he's doing, read a book, watched a few reruns of How to Get Away with Murder. Who knows? But he knows more than he's letting on. And yeah, like he pretty much wipes all the evidence, shoves it in her car, and then just pushes that car down a swamp.
Absolutely. Drives that car right into the swamp. And so you have no clue that any of this had gone on. And that's when we go to the sister, because the sister, Lila, goes to Sam Loomis, and she's trying to blame Sam Loomis, like she took off and went with Sam Loomis. And Sam's like, I haven't seen her. She told me she was going to come here, but I have not seen her. And then walks in Martin Balsam, who plays Arbogast, and he's like, yeah, well, why don't we talk a little bit about this? What do you guys know about the last time you talked to or saw Marion Crane? And so that's when things start getting in motion here. Like, people are starting to figure out something's going on. And so eventually Arbogast goes out to the Bates Motel to talk to Norman. And of course he goes, I'm not a fool, and I'm not capable about being fooled. Because, when he was talking to Marion, she was kind of getting him upset because she was saying stuff about his mother. Now, Arbogast is trying to make him look out like he's an idiot or a fool. And he's like, no, I'm not a fool. You can't fool me. So we start seeing some of his temper.
Yeah, and that's when we get like more into, I guess this is where we start to understand more about like Norman Bates as a character. We understand that like, there is levels to him. Like you see what he presents, which is like a mild mannered, quirky, awkward hotel manager. But then you get to this scene and you see like, oh no, there is some darkness in him. There is more. To quote a really bad movie, it's not talking about this one. There is more than meets the eye when it comes to Norman Bates.
Absolutely, absolutely. So he ends up leaving. Arbogast ends up leaving and making a phone call to Lila and telling her that he's got some information. He thinks there's something going on. He saw a shadow of a woman in a window. So he wants to go back and investigate. So he ends up going back and investigate, and Norman's nowhere to be found. So he ends up going into the house, and another great scene in this film, and another great scene that has been
about it.
Where he's walking up the steps, and we hear that music again. We hear that sound again, Chance. That he comes out of the room, stabs him right in the face, and he falls down the stairs, down to the bottom of the stairs. Arbogast is dead. We got another dead body on our hands.
No, yeah, and just the way the scene was shot and the way it's framed, like some of the camera angle that Hitchcock was able to pull off are just fantastic. You have the tracking shot up the stairs. You have the eye in the sky view of the camera, and you really don't see it coming. And it's just so sudden and so quick. Like she literally just walks out just with such intent and purpose. Like you blink and you miss it, and then you just see him fall down. You just see him fall down the stairs, and the way it's shot and the way it's done, you feel like you're falling with him, and then he just falls on, just stabbed over and over again. And yeah, we just watched our second murder of the movie.
Yeah, you really do feel like you're being murdered because it's so in your face. It's completely different than the other murder, which was really graphic. And this one, because he's got stabbed right in the face, you're like, holy crap, I can't believe what I just saw. And of course, he doesn't go back and talk to Lila. So Lila is talking to Sam, and she's like, hey, he's supposed to be here. He said he was going to call back in an hour. We need to do something. So what they end up doing is Sam knows the local sheriff, and he goes to the sheriff. They start talking to the sheriff, and the sheriff starts talking and this and that and the other. And they're like, yeah, we saw, he said he saw a shadow of his mother. And she's like, well, it couldn't be. It couldn't have his mother. His mother is buried in Green Lawn Cemetery.
Yeah, to which, like, when you hear that, you're just like, what? How does this make any sense? Because I want to say before this, or no, it's right after this, where you see a scene where you hear Norman and his mother having a dialogue, which is then preceded by him like carrying her down the stairs because, it's like I think it's, if I remember correctly, something like, you know what? Why don't we just head downstairs for a while?
Yeah, we want to get you out of the way just in case anybody comes looking around. We want to put you out of the way where no one's going to find you. And so that's the reason why he ends up bringing, she argues with him about it, of course. And so she ends up in the cellar. So nobody can see her anymore. Because obviously that's a noticeable thing when she's standing or sitting in her chair in the light in the room. Everybody can notice that she's in there, but not in the cellar.
No, exactly. Trying to keep he's clearly trying to keep her, out of the public light, just because if they come, he knows he's going to go down for, at this point, double homicide.
Yeah, absolutely. So this gets Lila and Sam to decide that they're going to go out there themselves after talking to the sheriff at church. Sheriff's like, I already went out there at 4:30 in the morning, and I didn't find anything. Then they're like, well, there's something going on. We're going out here. And so they split up. One of them goes to the office to talk to Norman and starts talking and asking questions and starts insinuating that Norman killed Marion for the $40,000, while the other one goes to the house and starts looking around. And Norman realizes when Sam is talking to him that Lila's not around. Where's your girlfriend? Where's your whoever she is? and they end up fighting, and he knocks him out. He knocks out Sam and runs back to the house while Lila's looking around while she's going from one room to the other, and she eventually lands in the cellar. And she turns it around, and there is a skeleton with a wig and a dress on, and she screams to high hell, ah! You know, and of course this gets Norman's realize, oh crap, she's in the cellar. And he comes in all dressed up as his mother with a wig and a dress on, and he's got that classic, that knife with him. And when he's about to stab Lila, here comes Sam. He saves the day and knocks him out. And before you know it, everybody, the police are there, and then they're talking to them and whatnot. This is basically the end of the movie. There is another scene in the movie, a couple scenes in the movie, but I want you to talk, comment on this stuff that I just talked about. Chance.
Yeah, no, the twist you do not see coming, just because there is an actress doing dialogue for Norman's mother. Like, you never assume. I mean, granted, you see them in the same room at the same time, but you never actually see them you never actually see the people. You just hear the voices and you see people, like, you know, moving and reacting to stuff. I think the way this is framed, the way this was executed, I thought was fantastic. Just because you have, I mean, coming in, you have that just this what looks like a woman sitting in a chair. You turn around, you see that skeleton, and then out of nowhere, you just like see Norman bust into the room, and like at first glance, you're just like, "Oh my god, that's not Norman, is it?" And then like it sets in, you realize, holy shit, that was an incredible twist. Just having Norman be the one to you know, be the one doing all this murder, and it makes you look at the rest of the film in just a completely different light. And like when you get to the end scene you're talking about, it's at a courthouse, and they explained that Norman actually murdered murdered his mother, and I believe it was her boyfriend or her lover at the time. He murdered her, and it essentially broke his mind to the point where he developed a split personality. And they can't send him to jail because he's mentally ill, so they put him in a psychiatric ward. And the last scene is just some of the best acting in this time movie is just when him saying nothing. It's Anthony Perkins just sitting in a room, and you hear dialogue, but it's not Norman, it's the mother talking, because that's pretty much the movie signaling you that, like, hey, Norman's gone, the mother is now the dominant personality in Norman's body. And he's sitting there wondering, just like, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get out of here one day. All I gotta do is just play the part, act like I've been rehabilitated, and they'll let me out of here. Then like a fly lands on his hand, and he's like, I'm not even gonna swat that fly away, because by the time I'm out of here, they'll be like, oh, you know what? She's harmless. She wouldn't even hurt a fly. And then you just get that classic look to the camera, and then the movie just ends, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. The psychiatric doctor explaining what is wrong with Norman and why he was doing what he was doing was very, for the time, it was very jarring. You really, you did have, I believe, the Kansas in Cold Blood story around that time. I believe it was in the mid 60s or something. Maybe it was influenced by this. I don't know. But that was kind of like very rare for that time period to see something so graphic in the mind, what the games that the mind plays and stuff like that, and the illnesses that they started developing and learning about after watching, or this movie really started a lot of different kinds of things with psychiatric care and stuff like that with crazy people.
No, yeah, absolutely. And this, I think, shed a new light on a subject that, at least in the film world, wasn't touched on too much at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the reasons why we do what we do, why I created this show, was Robert Osborne, his book, the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. And we did season 1. We had a couple Hitchcock films on there, North by Northwest and Rear Window. This is going to be the 3rd Hitchcock film that we've discussed, is the first one in season 2. But the main thing, why they did the book, and why I continue to do it in season 2, chances, what makes these films, and I gave you guys the chance to nominate films that you think are something that's deserved to be discussed like this. What makes these films and what makes Psycho such an essential film for everybody that maybe have never heard of Psycho, or never heard of Alfred Hitchcock, or don't know about this movie?
It's interesting. It's an interesting thing about this movie just because when this originally released, it was like super polarizing. No one knew what to make of it. But as time has gone on, like I think as time has gone on, this has become more ingrained in pop culture lexicon. People have gone back and realized just how influential and how essential this movie was for the horror genre as a general. This is often looked at least in American cinema, the genesis of the slasher genre. And I think there's so many aspects of this as a film. This definitely stand out as one of the most important of all time. I mean, it pushed the envelope so much to the point where a lot of things that would hinder filmmakers in other cases were now acceptable as far as filmmaking, like as far as like violence and gore and the portrayal of like female characters. There's like that shower scene, especially that becomes so just iconic. There's a documentary just about that single scene. And like it's usually ranked as one of the best films of all time. It's often looked at as Hitchcock's best movie. It's completely shattered all expectations of what a horror film could be, and what a thriller could be, and what a slasher movie could be. I think you need a movie like this to really just push the envelope and push the boundaries, and which would make way for other great movies down the line. So I think Psycho was definitely essential for that to happen.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This is the forefront, the forerunner of the horror movie genre. Yeah, we had them and some little campy sci-fi movies with some horror elements, but not real horror. This was the film that really got that horror genre off and running, where all those classics, Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all those films followed in its footsteps. And there were sequels, but they weren't nearly as good as the original Psycho. And then there was a remake, a shot-for-shot remake, which is...
Oh, boy, don't get me started on that one.
No, I'm not. It's so odd to me, Chance, that you could take this very same film, do the exact same thing with it, but add color, and it's not half as good. The aspect of the film, the black and white, the angles, like you said, some of the camera angles and stuff, is what made this film so good for the time. But then you try to do that exact same thing 30 years later or 35 years later and make it color, and it just doesn't work, you know?
And that's my biggest point of contention, because Psycho was the first of its kind. It was the originator of a lot of like horror tropes that we celebrate today. But when Gus Van Sant did it, he made the mistake of just doing the exact same thing over and over again, doing nothing new, making it color, and trying to get that to pass. And you can't do that. If you're gonna remake a movie, you gotta at least try and do something different, which is what Gus Van Sant failed to do. And the fact, like, you're trying to replicate iconicness, and that's always a losing proposition.
No, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's, when you have iconic films like Psycho, and you have one of the greatest film, and it's a tragedy that Alfred Hitchcock had never won an Oscar for Best Director. He's only been nominated 4 times, and Rebecca was the first one, which I love Rebecca, but it's not at the caliber of films like North by Northwest, Rear Window, Psycho. I know there's some more that Strangers on a Train, Vertigo. I mean, those films are phenomenal films. And Rebecca isn't at. It's a good film. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the quality of his other films. And how he had never won an Oscar is one of the most baffling things I have ever heard when it comes to the Oscars. And I know you're a big Oscar guy too, so I know you're kind of shocked about that as well.
No, absolutely. Like Hitchcock he has gone down in history as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Like that is without a question. But yeah, I think the fact that genre films, for the most part, did not get the respect that they do today, which is why I think there are a lot of these like great filmmakers that direct these great iconic movies that just never got honored. And I think Hitchcock is a great example of that because a lot of his best work was in like the thriller suspense genre, which back in the Academy days wasn't always given the respect it most likely deserves. Which is why a filmmaker as influential as Alfred Hitchcock never got his due at the Oscars.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But the one thing that I always look back at and say he did get his due is when, in I think 2008 or 2010, in there somewhere, I can't remember when, AFI redid the 100 greatest films of all time, and Vertigo was nominated as the #1 greatest film of all time. So I thought that was justly deserved, as far as whether you agree or you disagree, but I thought that was justly deserved that they put a Hitchcock film at #1 because of him getting kind of shafted all those years and not getting any Oscars. But once again, Chance, thank you for being on the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter. Where can you be found?
You can find me in lots of stuff. Full Metal Media, the channel which this show is on. You can find me at ChanceWar_91 on Twitter and Instagram, at ChanceT83 on Stardust and Letterboxd. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Chance the Critic. And you can also subscribe to my new podcast, which is started with my friend Russell Howell, called Notorious by Chance. We'll be a few episodes in by the time this is published, but yeah, definitely give it a look.
All right, you can find me at Dan Skipbound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Also at From the Fourth Row. If you want to read any of my written reviews of new movie that are out in theaters, you can go to cinesportstalk.com. That's CINSPORTALK.com. Cinesportstalk.com. So for Chance and myself, good night.